What is up guys, Wraec is here with a new video, and today we are going to look at Starland Arena, the new PvP game mode. You can find it right up here below the Shishi Festival at the moment. Let's click on it, let's have a look. Basically what you'll first see are the first three players. Most notable at the moment, No 7 from my clan. Pretty cool that Led is already up there, or still up there. I have to say, it becomes harder and harder to stay at those high levels. Already hit 2000 points. Insane, mate, insane. Quite insane team at that. Quite a lot of Transcendence heroes, quite a lot of good heroes, and a 4v4 lineup made is quite strong. But that's not what the video is about. I wanted to tell you my thoughts on it and maybe do a fight with you guys so that you can see what it is all about. Maybe even if you can compete, because you have to have quite a lot of heroes, you have to have quite a lot of awakened heroes. And to compete well in it, you also have to be really strong. Because if we take a look at it, there are some really nice rewards in here. We get some daily rewards, a silver coin of Starland, which is like the currency for the Starland store, special store we will look at. And then there is the season reward. And the season reward is very good. We get like a very cool avatar. We get a frame, which is the same for the entire top 100, but and also for top 1, but different for the rest. There are different tiers of that avatar, of that frame as well. This is quite alright. I mean, if you're not in the top 100, you still get a frame, and those look pretty cool, to be honest, have decent stats, so that's rather nice. What I was surprised about, though, are really those upper ranks, like this avatar, especially the number 1, number 2, and number 3 frame. And avatar, I've confused it all the time. The reason I was surprised about this is because this is actually cross-platform PvP, meaning all the people from iOS are here and all the people from Android. And there will only be one winner. So like only one guy from both platforms combined will be able to get this avatar this season, and I think that's kind of insane if you get it. It really like tells people that you're like the top-notch player to a certain extent. Of course, there's always a bit of RNG involved with PvP, but like it's quite an achievement, and I think that's quite cool and quite a cool avatar. That if I had to take a guess, by the way, I would assume I can finish top 100. Top 10 would be great. I would not expect, to be honest. I guess I will get somewhere in the top 100. That would be something I can see myself, and it's still quite cool. I get the frame, I will get the avatar likely, and this will be alright. As we talked about the Starland coins, you can use those here. There are some decent rewards for this. You can get cores for 800, bit of stellar. I guess in comparison, the cores are quite nice compared to the stellar. I would rather get the cores, to be honest. Some CI mats, and for free-to-play players, it will be quite nice to see that you actually have a source of master toolboxes here. So you can get master toolboxes without depending too much on a special event. In a sense, Starland still is kind of a special event. More later on this. We have the regular Void campaign resources, we have the Void Arc resources, including the red and the orange Starspawn materials. Though they are quite limited, you can only buy 5, and there's quite a chunk of resources you'll have to use here. You see, day 1 is over, I only have 100 of this stuff, and one single orange fragment costs like 3200, and you can only get 5, and you need 5 for one single upgrade and 20 for one star spawn. So like 240 for all star spawns, which is a lot. So like this is a source of that stuff, but not really the main source. And you can get some core fragments as well, which is quite nice. It's only like 1 for the price of a core, which was quite surprising for me because it's 800 and the core is also 800. But I guess core fragments are quite nice, and people will try to get them, and so will I likely. because it's quite a nice boost to the regular campaign resource gain as well. So why did I say that Starland Arena is not really a regular source of income of those resources? Well, the reason for this is Starland Arena is a PvP event scheduled irregularly, and I think that's quite strange and something we don't really have at the moment. They don't really tell us when it will be available or when not, if it will be like a monthly thing. Maybe Starland Arena is a yearly thing. I don't think so, but it would be crazy kind of, wouldn't it? If you can get the frames like once a year and only the avatars once a year would make them like super rare. I would guess something like monthly. Then again, it's 10 days, so quite long amount of time. And you will get an invitation. We didn't talk about this. I wanted to see the game mode before talking about it, to be honest. And will be able to participate as long as you can fill the hero slots. So what is this game mode now all about? Basically, it's a PvP game mode. And you fight different players. I have a selection of players here. Basically, the game gives you 5 random players. As I assume they are pretty close to your rank. We can check that. Let's check. So that's my rank. Let's scroll a bit up. I would assume the game could take some... Yeah, we have Animorph here. We have Red 7 here at 80 to 81. And is it like just 80 to 90 if I'm here? No, it isn't. It isn't. We have Rebirth, which was also there. Maybe it's like 20 places upwards, 20 places lower. That would make sense. Yeah, could be the case. And you will get some players from there and you can fight them. And of course, that kind of means that the higher your ranking is, the harder it will get to fight those players. Because basically, if you are place 1, with that logic, you will only fight the top 20. And you can see for yourself, top 20 guys, they are kind of strong. You see like Donkey Ballers in here, Silent Hero Kenshin, a lot of the iOS guys are here. So that would be quite hard to fight those guys. And of course, what you can do is just collect some attacks and refresh later so you get easier enemies, which is something I did for quite some time. I was like around place 11, I think, the last time I did attacks. And I collected some attacks to get to lower rankings. I want to do one attack for the video though. So we will definitely do that. But before, I want to show you guys something else. And these are the amulets. And amulets confuse some people because that's quite something new and something that is very special for this game mode. There are certain point thresholds. At 0 points you get 5 amulets, at 1000 points you get 2 amulets, and then another 2 at 2500 and another 2 at 4500. And those amulets are basically skill effects or effects that you can equip to your team. And you have a certain selection here. I, for myself, I think can we look at all of them? Yeah, we can. You basically have to decide for 5 amulets at the beginning of your Starland season. And how many are there on this tier? There are 10 on this tier, so you can take half of those that are available, and all of those amulets will provide you with a effect for your team. So like I took the Iron Amulet. At the beginning of each battle increases all allies' armor by 30% for 15 rounds. So you get like 30% more armor. Or this one, the blue ones are always a positive effect for your team, and the red ones are a negative effect for the enemy. So like this one buffs our team by with 30% armor. This one, for every ally on the battlefield, deals damage equal to 5% of max HP to all enemies. So this one deals damage to our enemies, and there are other ones like this one. This one I think is particularly good. For every ally on the battlefield, reduces all enemies crit damage by 5% for 15 rounds. So you can reduce the damage the enemies can deal by quite a lot. And you kind of have to think a little bit before you use those, because some of them require a certain amount of allies to be present on the battlefield for the full effect, like this one. For every ally on the battlefield, you get an effect. So is this one. And others, especially the blue ones, just increase the stats on your heroes by a fixed amount. And this will be important later on. So keep that in mind. Personally, as I said, I decided for those. This one, I have to say, kind of questionable decision in hindsight. 10% control immunity really isn't a whole lot. I stand by the other choices though, like the 50% block is really a nice damage reduction, so is the reduction of the enemy crit. The damage is nice. I used that mostly on a team with Mockman in the back row to get some burst, to get some kills, and of course 30% armor for some extra damage reduction is always quite good. I would say attack is solid, it's quite alright. I wouldn't really choose that one. For every ally on the battlefield uses damage reduction of the enemy with the highest speed by 2%. Reducing 12% of damage reduction just isn't worth using the Amulet slot for. So this one isn't that great. All allies HP 10%. You will hardly notice it, but it is alright. And then we have like an armor break one, which I wouldn't really use, most likely. And this one, which reduces all enemies block by 5%. Maybe in a Panda meta I could see this one. Other than that, I guess we have a lot of mediocre choices for the 5th slot, but 4 really good ones. So, and then you progress. And as we saw before, I'm at like 1,725 points. By doing my fights, you can get up to 45 points a fight. And as soon as you reach 1,000 points, you basically unlock the next Amulet tier. And the next Amulet tier, as you can see, gives you additional effects based on the tier of your heroes. And I think the choice of tiers they took here is decent. Like E- and above and C- and above is quite achievable. And most players, I think, will have heroes C- or above. And will be able to get those buffs, or if they really want them, can acquire a C- hero rather easily to get those buffs. So it's not like Espen Dungeon where you get additional buffs for having an S tier hero, which is ludicrous in my opinion and shouldn't be the case in any game mode, as an S tier provides enough bonus stats by itself. Doesn't need to be buffed anymore by the game mode itself. So what those amulets basically are buffed versions of the amulets we saw before. As you can see, we have the Iron Amulet Ultra here, and we have the regular Iron Amulet. The regular Iron Amulet gave us 30% armor for 15 rounds, and so does this one. So it has basically the same effect for E- or above. Iron Amulet Ultra is basically the same, unless, of course, Awakened tier is C- or above. In which case, when an ally takes active skills or basic attack, increases self-armor by 50% for 2 rounds, which is kind of a little bit like having a pretty strong Panda army in your team, because you scale armor to an insane level and can make your heroes really tanky. So like building a little Panda team with this is really an option, and I think it's quite a cool effect and quite a strong one at that, because the requirement of taking an active or a basic attack is pretty easy to fulfill, and having a 50% armor buff for that seems quite OP in my opinion, so quite a strong one. I really like that one. The other one I chose, also not so sure about this one anymore. I chose those today when I was pretty tired, to be honest. When an ally kills an enemy, the killer gains a shield equal to 30% of max HP. Then again, as I said, this was quite an easy requirement to fulfill. Killing an enemy, on the other hand, is something else. And yeah, of course, you will kill enemies, but it's just not that easy to do as just taking an active or a basic attack. And then again, you get a shield for 30% of max HP, and it's a question if that is really worth using that amulet slot for. But then again, I can't change my choice. Once you have chosen your amulet, you are basically stuck with it. And to look at the other ones and give you an idea of which ones are good and which ones aren't, we basically have different kinds of amulet here, and that have different requirements. As you saw, we have taking an active skill here. Here it is killing an enemy. And here it is an effect that starts at the beginning of the 3rd round, which we will see later on as well. And we increase all allies' attack by 35% for 3 rounds. I don't really like that one, to be honest. 35% is a good amount, don't get me wrong about that. But you'll first of all have to get to the 3rd round, and then you will only have it for 3 rounds. So questionable if it's the kind of boost that you want. I would rather prefer something that starts in the 1st round and in fact that can progress over time. Then again, maybe you can build a team around that makes it worth getting 35% on round 3 and has an advantage on that. Maybe with like a Mockman in the front row that changes his stance at around round 3 and suddenly starts to burst, and having the huge attack buff of 35% then might be good. So it is an option, but you should consider first what you want to do with it and which team you want to build with it. Then we have the next one, and this one is basically the opposite amulet to the first one, to the Iron Amulet Ultra. While this one gets 50% armor every time an ally takes in basic or active attack, this amulet reduces the enemy's armor by 50% for 3 rounds every time an ally's active skill or basic attack lands a crit on said hero. So you can basically counter the Iron Amulet Ultra with the Blast Amulet Ultra as long as your heroes have enough crit. And I think it's very interesting, and I could imagine that Iron Amulet Ultra is could become a little bit of meta. As soon as like a meta develops. I think currently it's a more of experiment, and I could imagine that people might choose this amulet to counter that effect, because as I think it's still rather strong. Then again, we have another option for the same slot. While I didn't really like the regular decay amulet effect of reducing the damage reduction of the enemy with the highest speed by 2% for 15 rounds for each ally on the battlefield, I certainly like the effect of the Awakened Seed Hero buff. When an ally's active skill or basic attack lands a crit, reduce the target's damage reduction by 30% for 3 rounds. You can deal way more damage to an enemy as soon as the damage reduction is gone. That much I can tell you. So this is quite nice. And then again, enemies have quite a finite amount of damage reduction. So basically 1 or 2 crits will already get rid of everything. So I'm not quite sure which one ends up being better. I could imagine the Blast Amulet Ultra as it counters the Iron Amulet Ultra, but we'll have to see about that. And then we have even bigger ones at 2,500 and 4,500 points, and we can go over them short, but I haven't tested them, so I don't want to tell you too much about it, and let's give it just a second. So again, it's not really about the base effect here. Base effect is basically the same as before, but about the extra effect, and I have to say those are quite OP. We can look at the least insane for a second, which is this one. When an ally's active skill successfully hits the target, increases all allies' precision by 20% for 2 rounds. This is the least insane, and I think the least desirable. There are other ones that are a lot better. Let's, for example, look at the first one. At the beginning of each round, for every ally on the battlefield deals damage equal to 5% of max HP to all enemies. If you have like Team 5 or something and have like 5 or 6 enemies on the battlefield, you deal like 25 to 30% of max HP to all enemies at the beginning of each round. So like a survivability comp, survivability team with crowns or something can deal quite huge damage just by surviving and being on the battlefield. Then again, I think the next one is way stronger. At the end of each round, for every surviving ally on the battlefield, there is a 30% chance to inflict a random control effect on the enemy with the highest speed for 1 round. It should be said though, it is at the end of each round. So it should likely be removed by CC Purify. So like if that CCs the enemy can still CC purify the control effect if it's just one. It doesn't say that. A random control effect could mean like that he gets 2 or 3 control effects, and the enemy with the highest speed is often the strongest. Like could be like an SFX or something. And inflicting control effect like this can be pretty strong, I have to say. And 30% chance isn't too high, but also not quite bad. And you can really take a fight with this. Like if you can get CC the strongest hero on the field, on the enemy's field, that fight is basically done. So this is quite an insane one in my opinion. We have to see though if the 30% chance is really good and how often it will happen that we will double CC an enemy. Then again, we can run a CC comp and put our own CCs on the enemy with like a cruise or something, and then use the Erosion Amulet Ultra to apply a second CC effect and win by that. So maybe Cruise Meta incoming. And maybe even more so if it just so happens that he will be in the batch of the new heroes that get Stellar Shot upgrades. So that will be quite interesting to see. Talked about that one already, and then we have this one. When an ally's active skill successfully hits a target, reduces their precision by 50% for 2 rounds. I think that's even weaker actually than the Onslaught Amulet Ultra, to be honest. Because reducing the precision, yeah, okay, I mean, like, can use like a Panda team or something, but I don't think it's that strong. And self-buffing yourself at least gives you damage. If the enemy team doesn't focus on precision at all, yeah, your block will be more effective, but if the enemy team didn't have much precision at the beginning, this Panic Amulet Ultra will quickly use its effectiveness, as there is no negative block, it will just be 0 and stop everything at that. So that one even worse than this one, to be honest. Then we have the Delay Amulet. At the beginning of each battle, for every ally on the battlefield, reduces all enemy speed by 4 for 15 rounds. Which is insane. Like in a speed battle, that is really quite a strong artifact. And below that we have, at the end of each round, for every ally on the battlefield, reduce the speed of the enemy with the highest speed by 50 for the rest of the battle. This is insane. And even in smaller teams, which we will talk in a second about, this is quite insane. So my personal favorites: Delay Amulet Ultra, the Erosion Amulet Ultra, certainly very strong, or the Reprimand Amulet Ultra. Reprimand Amulet Ultra, to be honest, should be a solid choice if you don't want to take a gamble basically at the CC chance of the Erosion Amulet, but all those 3 are basically quite insane. I would say the first 2 are the most solid choice. The last one with the speed, yeah, it is, while it is really strong, I think it only is really worth it in the last 2 teams, in the bigger teams, where you have some kind of advantage from overwhelming the speed of the homeowner in the enemy team by a lot with different heroes, because you really reduce it by a lot of speed at the end, and I think even regular heroes will be faster than the enemy with the highest speed. So you have to think about that, and I think the Delay Amulet is again an amulet which you should plan to use in a certain way. Like think of a team before taking this amulet. It will be good either way. It will be good either way, reducing the enemy's speed in PvP, the most important stat, always good. But I think you should have a team in mind, maybe something Starring Jara or some CC comp that you can use this with. And the last tier, again, as a quite powerful effect, we have at the beginning of each battle, increases all allies' holy damage by 15% for 15 rounds. Is quite a right good holy damage buff. And then we have again a 3rd round effect with 300% of holy damage, which is an insane damage buff. That's super big amount of damage. That's like really huge bursts. It's not like the 35% of attack that I thought about before and that I said, yeah, I mean, might be worth it. That's like a lot of damage. That's really like a lot of damage. So if you were thinking about doing that Mogman comp I suggested before, this will make it even better. Then we have, at the beginning of each battle for every ally on the battlefield, reduces all enemies holy damage by 5% for 15 rounds, and when an ally takes a crit from an active skill or basic attack, reduces the attacker's holy damage by 100% for 2 rounds, which is certainly interesting. I would have expected, to be honest, that this is like when an ally deals a crit. I think the red ones were like more offensive orientated before, and this is a defense orientated red one. It's a bit weird, but it's alright. Basically, this is the counter to this one, though I'm not sure it's quite a good one, because this one would require an enemy to hit the heroes in your team like 3 times to reduce the holy damage buff to 0. And I think in that case, this amulet is better. And in a usual fight, this won't do a whole lot. Like, if you have 30% holy damage and you lose that, yeah, okay, you lose that. Not nice, but like not devastating. Not as devastating as like getting your highest hero absolutely CC'd or losing like 30% of max HP every round. It's not like this level of devastation, this level of disruption that this brings. So not like really strong, while I can see certainly this one work. And then we have Plague Amulet Ultra. At the beginning of each battle for every ally on the battlefield, increases all enemies dot received by 5%, and when an ally releases an active skill or basic attack to enemies inflicted with dot, increase their dot by 10%, which is kind of the effect that Star Alchemist Homes has, and certainly an interesting one. Maybe a dot-focused build with Sandybora Eos, Star Alchemist Homes. Do they show the right heroes here? Yeah, those are basically the dot heroes. That is alright. Maybe somebody can build the Delacium comp. Would be quite cool. Not sure if something gimmicky like that has a good chance of survivability here, but it would be quite cool to see the enemy die to dot. If you can make it tanky with crowns, yeah, I can see that work. Would be cool. Especially Star Alchemist Homes builds will do a huge amount of damage with this. So this is a solid one, I would say. And then we have the block one again, and when an ally takes a crit from active skill or basic attack, increases self-block by 50% for 3 rounds. Seems a little bit weak for this tier, honestly. I mean, it's not bad. It's not really bad. But like, as soon as you reach 100% block, and if the enemy has 0 precision, that's like everything more doesn't give you anything. So stacking huge amounts of block is most likely not worth it unless the enemy is running a huge amount of precision. So not really the strongest one, while it still provides a decent amount of damage reduction. I would have expected it maybe like 1 tier lower, only 2,500 points. And then we have the Anxiety Amulet Ultra. At the beginning of each battle for every ally on the battlefield, reduces all enemies crit by 5% for 15 rounds, and when an ally takes active skills or basic attacks, reduces the attacker's crit by 30% for 3 rounds. I have to say, the 4,500 point ones seem surprisingly weak. Like, not bad in any case. I mean, this is solid and will reduce the damage the attackers can deal, and if you can make them not crit at all, that's quite cool. Don't get me wrong about this, but it's like less than you would expect if you just click through here and you see those, and you see the Erosion Amulet and see like Reprimand Amulet, and you click on 4,500 and you expect it to be even better. Then this just isn't. This is arguably worse than those 2 amulets I just talked about, and while still being decent and better than some of the choices we saw before, like not as great as I might think. I like the Saint Amulet Ultra. That's a cool one if you can get like a round 3 team that has some value in getting to round 3. This one is cool. This one maybe for dot team, the Plague Amulet. Don't really see the Blunt Amulet. Block Amulet is solid if you want to get 100% block on your team rather fast, or even more. Some pandas with it, or just for the damage reduction itself, it's 35% damage reduction if you block something, so that's quite alright. And then reducing the attacker's crit can be meaningful if you want some survivability, but really, if you take 2, I mean like take the Saint Amulet and take any of those 3. If you don't want to run a dot team, take one of those. Both of those are rather fine, and they have similar similar requirements. This one is taking a crit, this one is just active for a basic deck. I would say the Anxiety Amulet is better still, just for the reason it doesn't require you to take a crit and you can run something like Wraec Investor with it without risking getting no use out of this amulet. So that was everything about the amulets. As I said before, you can choose 5 of the first one and then 2 on each stage, and I recommended you basically 2 for all of those stages. So we got into way more... 30 minutes. Long video again. We got into way more depth than I really wanted, and I haven't really even explained the fighting type. So the fighting type, if we click on this guy, for example, there are 5 teams, and it's 2 heroes in the first team at max, is 3 heroes in the second, and so on. So you can't deploy more than 2 heroes in the first team, and this guy has done it quite right, in my opinion. SFX for the first team is a pretty good choice, because there are just 2 attackers. Like if you put SFX in this team and SFX gets a quick kill, which this guy tries to ensure with the Wraec, then what will the enemy do? Unless he has a faster SFX or the stronger SFX, he can never hit the SFX unless he relies like on the star spawn, of course. So having like an SFX here is quite cool. Another thing I already found out and like a lot as an idea is like in Wraec Investor early on, like in Team 2 maybe, you can use the sublimation to get an additional crit immune hero, and you can make your entire team crit immune by putting a Wraec Investor in here, which is quite OP. Having an entire crit immune team, then you can stack on like block, damage reduction, and have an absolutely devastating survivability comp. Which will excel in 3 versus 3 fights. Of course, you will have to have the sublimations for that. But even if you don't have the sublimation to get 2 crit immune heroes, having 1 crit immune hero in a team like this is already quite strong. And Team 2, I don't really see a lot of SFX. Most people put it in slot 1, so in Team 1, so it's already an option to do that. And then basically you get bigger team sizes, and you have to keep in mind that certain amulets have more effect the more allies you basically have. What do we have here? Yeah, this guy is basically done it right. He used fixed buffs like attack buff on the earlier teams, and for every ally buffs or debuffs on the teams with more allies in it, which makes sense to a certain extent and is something you should aim for. But now let's go for a fight. This actually seems like a pretty strong opponent, to be honest. Well, maybe let's just fight this guy. Red 7 from Hydra. Also seems like a strong guy. Has done the SFX thing. His team 3 seems quite strong, and this is something I really don't like about this game mode. Like, I can think about my teams, but then again I fight an enemy, and this guy, for example, of course he has the SFX slot 1, which is like a really great choice, but then he has a core here and 2 homeowners with recent TOO, and I have to counter that basically and have to put my heroes in here. And also this team seems quite strong. We have a Panda team here with a homeowner EOS. I don't know how much stats he put on there. And then here we have this team, which is absolutely weak. So I kind of have to take my strength out of Team 2 because I won't need much to defeat this. And the same goes for this one. Though I kind of can't underestimate that Freya, because it might screw me over. So I kind of have to set my team up again perfectly to even fight this, which I don't really like, to be honest. And the way this works in the end is, if you can see that here, you get, I don't even think it is in here, sad. You basically get points for each fight. And the way they give you points is, for every battle you lose, you get less points. If you win every battle, it's 45 points. If you win 4 battles, it's 40 points. If you win 3 battles, it's 30 points. And if you win less than 3 battles, it's 0 points. So you basically have to win 3 or more battles, and if you want to be competitive and be at the top, then you have to win 5 battles. Or 4. Everybody makes mistakes, so something around that. So let me set this team up. I noticed there are no teams set up, so I will do that, and then I will just cut here and we will see us when the teams are set up. Okay guys, team is set up. I have put everything in. The idea of the first team, as I said, we have the stronger SFX, so should be no problem. Basic HP buff here. Then we have this team, which should just deal with some easier enemies. Blockbath, crit damage reduce, 2 carries for some energy drain, and some extra stats for the Asmo when they die or revive. Don't use this against Sunny Warriors, by the way. The carries dying are a big problem against this. Then we have the strong team on 3. Enemy uses Ferric Vessel. We use 1 Demon Bell Armora, 1 Crown Armora to get the healing curses on the enemy, and then we have Ferric Vessel and MFF, and hopefully this is enough. Pretty defensive team, and we run the, I think that's armor Amulet. Then we have team 4, it's just an MFF, so maybe even an overkill this one. Damage for each ally on the battlefield, just the Hellora, back row, Harp, Mockman, and we have a Flora in there. A carry for some energy drain, a Rogan, this should be quite nice. And then the rest of the team for the last slot with crit damage reduce the Phoenix, 2v4 Rogans, pretty bad Sunny Warriors, and we run some CC with the Starwing Jara and the Aspen. Now we just have to activate cores. That's of course something I forgot. No core on the last one, definitely have to get a Starwing Jara core again. And now we will battle, and you will get a grasp of how it works. Basically it's one battle after the other, and if I lose I will be very ashamed, and this will be quite sad. But I sure hope we don't. Maybe some of those teams aren't that strong. I mean, that one should win. That one should win. I mean, if that one doesn't win, that's honestly pathetic. Even though the Olivia is a little bit scary, draining a lot of energy out of our team, and the Drake can take care of our crown. But I'm optimistic. Now the Drake is gone, so that's something. We still don't really deal damage though. Oh, that's so annoying if we lose this. I mean, like, that's in V4 Asmo. Come on, Asmo. You can do this. It's starting to look a little bit better now on turn 13 already. Our carries are live. Our Rogue is, Asmo is still small, but that should change now on round 15. Honestly, the fights with this team, with this exact team, always go so long. So now we are getting to a real scary team. I'm not sure we can win this one, but we will certainly try. Of course, already the first mistake made here. We placed our crown Armora in the back row. Was fixed now by her getting an active fat on round 1. We just wanted the healing curses here, but yeah, no, it worked either way, so that's something. We have heal, we have all damage reduction, we have armor scaling, so honestly I think it will be a rather long fight, but we also have a pretty strong Ferric Vessel, so we have some options here, and as long as our back row Armora survives, the Aspen is not really an issue for our Ferric Vessel, so that's something to keep in mind. We are scaling armor here, which will make it even harder for the enemy to kill us. And we are also getting some dot through Freya, so that's something that will hurt the enemy, and it already did. It killed his Aspen. So the armor scaling together with our dot that goes higher and higher, just from our Freya, really helped in this fight, and we definitely could see that. Even though I kind of think we might have done even better if the second Armora had a crown as well. Then again, it of course helped us to gain double shields on turn 1. Now we have to win this one. Of course, with crap RNG from our Mockman. Just one chase, that is of course very bad. And I kind of noticed that sometimes there is a bug here. when the Hellora just doesn't inflict her bleed, which was very annoying. And honestly, this fight not looking too great. Kind of have to see how this goes. Our Mockman, of course, in the back row again, very weak. Our Hellora still looking strong, but then again, we of course still have to kill this Freya. And she isn't dead, and our Mockman will now die. This might be a loss. Honestly, that's bad. I didn't expect a loss here, and it's always those unexpected ones. I tend to underestimate MFF. Really have to say, I tend to underestimate MFF. I thought I used too many heroes on this stage here, but it seems like this was definitely not the case. So that's annoying to me now, honestly. That's annoying to me. We're going to lose 5 points on that. Yeah, you learn from your mistakes. Next time, definitely will give more value to Mystic Fairy Freya in the enemy team. I'm optimistic on this one, though. I'm rather optimistic on this one, though. Don't think we can lose that. Would be quite surprised. No chance here to lose that. Definitely no chance. Just the Asmo remaining, and he did an awful lot of damage. But I think we are safe. I think we are safe. Yeah, the Asmo is locked down, so no issue here. And then we get our Rin. And of course, this is a lie. We did not fight M Rebirth. This, of course, isn't true. Here it is, by the way. As I said, 45, 40, 35, depending on the amount of victories. We got 4 victories, so it's 40. And they also managed to show you the damage values. We can have a look at that, analyze our lost fight. This was pretty solid. This was a nice team comp, super tanky, and I think those were his main homeowners, so that worked quite nicely. Maybe a team that you guys can use as well. And then we have this one. I mean, like, we have 2 A tiers, and we lost 2 absolute crap tier heroes, by the way. Yeah, but it's really like, as I said in my Mockman review, he just doesn't do well without proper sublimations, and he doesn't have them at the moment. So even though he has A tier, it's really not too impressive what he does. So kind of a bad one, and definitely have to work on this team. Quite impressive damage though by the Holmes Young, if you consider that he was only V2. So quite cool at that. And then the last one, huge damage by the Asmo. But overall I would say was quite alright. Got up to rank 65 and still 3 more attacks to go. Could fight any more fear. Would be something old clanmate of mine, good guy. But we won't do that today. Yeah, now we talked about all the amulets, we talked about the rewards, we talked about the fights, we talked about some strategies. So I think we talked about everything. Guys. So that's something to go forward. Still have a lot of days left for this. I think it's like 9 days left for this. We still have the free counter here. Is there some kind of counter? Is there a counter here? I think it was here. 294 hours. So even more than 10 days. Like 12 days, a little bit above 12 days. So quite a long time, honestly, for a game mode like this. A lot will change. And one thing I didn't mention and that I don't really like, you can buy stamina. You need stamina for those attempts and it regenerates. And the stamina was a big issue. And the first thing that really bothered me was the game mode started with full stamina. You can only have 10 stamina, and the game mode started at like 2 AM for me with full stamina. So by the time I got up and was able to do some idle heroes at like 8 AM or something, I had already lost 2 stamina, and basically even if I fought perfectly, couldn't reach the top places anymore, which is super annoying, and I didn't really like that. And another thing, you can buy stamina, my purchase limit is reached, but you can basically buy 10 stamina a day and it will cost you 500 gems, and it's again a huge gem drain. As I said, 12 more days, so another 6,000 gems down the drain. And you get 30 gems back. You can basically like people here. You can give my mate no 7 a lie. Do we have some other cool people? Donkey Baller, he will get a like. And do we have anybody else that is worthy of a like? They are all worthy, but Hyde of course is a good choice. And then you will get 30 gems back. But yeah, I think it's an okay game mode. A few things that they have to tackle and optimize for the second season, but overall a pretty good one. And I'm very eager to see which amulets will perform well. I've given you my detailed analysis here, my first impression of a few amulets that we used. As I said, I really like this one, the armor scaling. We used that on the Ferric Investor team, and you could see how well it performs. It's like basically having pandas in your team without having pandas in your team. This was basically the pandaless panda team with armorers instead. So maybe an option, maybe something you guys can try out. And with that, I would like to end the video, and we will see us in the next one.